Welcome back to the channel. First video of 2023. It's a good time of year for every trader and investor out there. 2022 was a tough year for a lot of people who somehow didn't see it coming. Luckily, I played it pretty well and managed to be up on the year about 7.5%. You'd be hard pressed to find an actively managed professional fund that made any returns last year, actually. Especially long only. Lots of funds suffered big losses last year, so I'm glad we avoided that fate using using the strategies that I talk about in these videos. So thanks for following, and I'll make a separate video reviewing all our trades from last year. Today I just wanted to post an update to the website for the portfolio. So the portfolio that I'm making for 2023, it's actually so I funded an account with 100K for the sake of this site so we could track the performance, and most of it's deployed already as of last week. If you've been watching my videos, you'd have been following my rationale for being long the Dow, Bitcoin, and more recently this AMLP ETF, which is a fund of a bunch of high dividend energy stocks, mainly in the pipeline infrastructure sector. So you can take a look at that. So what we got here, about 66% of it, or no, probably 63% of it is in the Dow. This DIA ETF. I mean, I think my rationale for the Dow is that it just, it technically looks like it's seeing a lot more strength than the other indices. And, it makes a lot of sense in the high interest rate environment these days. So about 63% of that is the portfolio is allocated to that. And we also have about 17% allocated to Bitcoin. I just allocated one whole even Bitcoin to the fund. Seems to be a reasonable allocation at about 17%, so we'll call that good. That's a buy and hold, long-term hold at this point. I think, a lot of the leverage has already been destroyed last year, and I think it's a pretty good time to go long and just hold steady in Bitcoin. So 17% of it's in there. And as I talked about, as I mentioned also, this, this AMLP. So that's about 7.5% of the portfolio. And one thing I actually haven't discussed on any of these videos yet is, so you'll see these first two positions, cold and UCO. So cold these are both leveraged funds, 3 times leveraged funds. This is cold is a short natural gas fund, and UCO is a long oil fund. And my rationale here, so this is a position I've held since May 10th, 2022, and it has not worked out very well so far. Not as it has in previous cycles. And I'll take you over to the chart here. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so this is the ratio of oil to natural gas, and as you can see, it pretty consistently ranges between 12 and 24. And how I've been playing this is anytime it gets to around 12, I go long oil and short natural gas. And I ride it up. And then around 24 here, I reverse the position and I go short oil, long natural gas, and ride it back down. And just reverse it again. And I've been doing that for, I think I started doing that back here in November of 2020, and it's worked out great. The only hang up I had this cycle, so I got stuck in this trade this time around because so I entered long oil, short gas on May 10th of 2022. So that's indicated by this gray vertical line here. And it seemed to me, we had the momentum reversing to the upside down here on the PPO, and it looked to me like it was going to start heading back to 24, and then we got a reversal out of nowhere right here that just quickly reversed and just did not stop. Went all the way back down, way down here to about 9.5. So that was pretty unexpected, and at that point, I knew it would eventually reverse and come back up here to 24. So I said, okay, whatever. I'll just hold on to that, and I'll eventually break even and just close the position. And it's actually approaching that level again. So I mean, we've really made a strong move up towards 24 again. I mean, we're at about 19.5 now, so we're approaching the level where probably around this 23.10, this trend line right here. That's probably around where I think I'd probably close the position and reverse it, but not quite there yet. I think what happened this year, particularly with the election year, so the White House wanted to drain the SPR to keep the oil prices down. Okay, whatever. So I mean, it was completely manipulated this cycle, and also with the war in Ukraine and how that affects the natural gas supplies to Europe. I think a lot of speculators were piled into that trade, trying to get in on this squeeze that they thought was going to happen to Europe, and it never quite materialized. And they've seen a pretty unseasonably warm winter so far. I think that's probably got a lot to do with it. But to me, it really looked like natural gas was in a bubble. Let's go to that chart here. I mean, just to start off the year here, natural gas is already down 6%. I mean, it's just completely fallen out of bed here. But if you zoom out, you can look at some of these past peaks. So you'll see that natural gas is pretty volatile, but anytime you get one of these really big spikes, once it ends up in a blow off top that quickly reverses to the downside, and I can imagine just destroys a lot of traders. So it was obvious to me that this thing was in a bubble, and it's coming back down now. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit this $3.68, this black line here. That's around the level that I'd be looking for it to make a pretty strong bounce. So I think that's probably when I'll close that position. So it looks to me like that's coming soon. So we'll see how that goes. If you've been following my videos, you'll have noticed that I do expect a pretty strong couple of weeks to start the year. If we go back to, let's go back to the forecast. So if these models, so all of these models are predicting a really strong start to the year. So if we don't see some real bullish price action first couple of weeks, then I'm going to close the long on the Dow and probably the AMLP ETF as well. And at that point, I'd probably be looking to sit it out until this low in late February, early March. So that's my plan. hopefully we'll see some good price action tomorrow and next week, um, and hope for the best. We'll see you then.